Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Raising Healthy Mothers. So it is Halloween this week. So you might have noticed that the pumpkins are out, you've got your costumes sorted, and maybe there is a small mountain of sweets about to arrive in your house. And if you've got young children, you might be thinking, what do I do? Should I let them eat it all? Should I ration it? Should I hide it behind the kale? If you've ever found yourself hovering over your child's treat bucket or maybe at Easter over their chocolate stash and thinking, what is the right thing to do here? How much sugar should I let them have? What do I do about this mountain? Then this is the episode for you. So we are talking about sugar, children, and Halloween, not from a place of guilt or control, but from a place of understanding how to deal with talking about food in a way that does not create a bad relationship with food. And this is really, really important for me. I want you to raise children that are comfortable with eating whatever they want, whenever they want. And I want you to have the confidence to know that they can listen to their body. And that's what this is all about. Because our goal isn't about stopping our children from absolutely loving sweets and chocolate and all of those things. It's to help them enjoy it without obsession or guilt, without a kind of going down the mum, is this healthy or not kind of route, just knowing that they can totally trust themselves. So let's start off with thinking about toddlers. So if your child is under 2, then yes, you might want to consider limiting sweets and chocolates. They don't really understand what is going on with Halloween. They don't really know what it's all about. So there isn't really a lot of deprivation in just letting them have a couple of treats or a couple of sweets once or twice and then just putting it all away. But once they're old enough to really understand what trick-or-treating is about, anticipating Halloween for all of the sweets that they're going to get, it becomes less about restricting completely and more about guiding them and coaching them to know how to listen to their own body. So this is your chance to model calmness and trust around food, to not put those guilt, moral words behind food. So the words you use are so powerful. You want to avoid saying things like, too much sugar is going to make you hyper, or too much sugar is bad for you, or too much sugar is going to give you that sugar crash later on. It's about keeping it neutral. Food is not good or bad. It's just food. So then how do you handle a mountain of sweets calmly and neutrally without freaking out that actually they are going to go completely hyper and not be able to manage themselves? It is hard, and each child responds differently, to be honest. Personally, I don't really notice my children having a huge response to sugar in a big way. I mean, maybe they do become a little bit more hyper, maybe they do become a little bit louder, and also they tend to eat sweets when they are at a party or with their cousins, when emotions are running high anyway. They are having a lot of fun. They're probably going to get loud anyway. So it is hard to really know whether actually that massive rush of sugar is the reason, or whether it's just the fact that they're excited because they're with their favourite people in the world. So what I do is I just let them have access to their sweets, especially on the day. So on the day when they have collected all the Halloween sweets, I don't really restrict them. I might say, get to a certain point of the night and say, okay, I think you've had enough. Let's save the rest for the next day. But most importantly, what I do is I encourage them to listen to their body. So I might say, of course, you can have your sweets now, but listen to your tummy and stop when it feels full. And I might remind them as well that last year they felt a bit sick when they ate too much. Or I might mention that sometimes people feel sick if they eat too many sweets. Look, they're not going to get it right the first time. That's okay. This is about learning to listen to their body. It's about reflecting afterwards. So the next day you might gently remind them, do you remember how your tummy felt last night? What do you think you're going to do today? What are you going to do next time? Because this builds body awareness and food trust. And those lessons last far beyond Halloween, far beyond this 1 week. That is going to have a much more important effect in the long term in terms of how they view themselves, how they view food, how they eat, and how they behave around food. And that is so important. So then let's go into the practical bit, the actual real life tips here on, well, what do we actually do when we have all of this mountain of sweets? So what I tend to say is on the day when they get their sweets, let them have it. As I said, maybe suggest that they listen to their body. And then for the days after, if there are sweets still hanging around, I keep them available for a couple of days. I might put them all in one big bowl and they have free access to them. What I tend to find is that within a couple of days, that novelty of having free access to sweets that they don't normally have, right? actually starts to wear off. And the sweets that are kind of still hanging around there after a couple of days are probably going to hang around for a few more days after that. So what I tend to do is anything that's left after a couple of days, I might put them away so they're not so freely available. And that's not in a kind of like, right, you've had enough, let's put them away and hide them away. It's just that they've stopped noticing them in quite the same way. So I'll put them away. And we might bring them out maybe a couple of times at meal times. Maybe we might have them as an after school snack or whatever it is. But I'll just make them part of a meal, part of the day, rather than completely free access. And what this does is it takes away from that forbidden food power. It stops putting them on a pedestal of, oh, you must only have that once you've finished a whole dinner, or you can only have that if you've been good, or anything like that. We're taking away that connection between I will only get to eat these things if I do something that pleases my parents first. And a really important thing is to remind them that once the sweets are gone, they're gone. They're no more. You're not going to buy any more. They're just gone. So that is their Halloween haul. And once they're gone, they're gone. And the older your children get, the more you might realize that they actually quite enjoy that delayed gratification. They might be like, I'm going to eat a few now and I'm going to save the rest for tomorrow, or I'm just going to have a few every single day and then just let it last for a week. And you can just maybe coach them through it. Be like, okay, so when are you going to have them? Are you going to have them after dinner or with dinner or maybe after school? Let me know and I'll help you manage when you're going to have it. So again, you may not want them to have it like free access all the time, but it is just about reminding them that the sweets are there now because it's this time of year, but once they're gone, they're gone. And it's not about bribing them or creating any drama. It's just the fact. It's a fact that once the sweets have gone, they're gone. But the thing I do want to point out though is that quantity does matter. I'm in the UK. When we go trick-or-treating, we tend to get a little bucket and we fill that. We go around the houses and we fill that bucket. And to be honest, I find that once that bucket is full, the kind of novelty of getting more and more in there is done. Like the container is this big, and once it's full, they can't get anything else in there. They might have a few pockets they can stuff a few bits in, but generally speaking, once that bucket is full, they're quite happy. And what I find is that a lot of the time they actually eat most of that bucket that night, if not all of it. And then there's none for the rest of the week, and that's kind of okay. As I said, they don't tend to really react to sugar in a big way. I know all children are different, so you might notice that actually it's best for you to kind of remind them that they might want to eke it out. But actually what I find is that for the most part they eat quite a lot on the day and then they just sort of ignore it for the rest of the week. Having said that, I do know that in other parts of the world, I think in America in particular, it is a big thing and you end up with a lot of sweets. So in that case, if you have an absolute year's worth of sweets staring down at you at the kitchen table, okay, maybe pace it out. Maybe take half of them away and pace it out, but keep it low pressure. Adapt to your child. You know them best. You know their personality best. You know how they react to sugar best. Some need more support with boundaries, and some might be really good at self-regulating naturally. And I do find the older they get, they do self-regulate better than others. And that's why I say, like, under 2, you can regulate for them because they don't know what it's about. They haven't spent the last month kind of gearing up to it. Remember, the goal isn't about avoiding sugar forever. It's about building a healthy relationship with it. When sweets aren't treated as this forbidden kind of not allowed thing, they are so much less likely to sneak or binge on them. And that is really important when they become teenagers, when you don't have as much control over where they are and what they do and what they spend their money on. They need to know that you trust them to listen to themselves. You are helping them learn self-regulation, not enforcing control, not ruling with an iron fist. And over time, this makes food just a calm, normal part of life, not a battlefield. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want to raise confident, intuitive eaters who know what it means if they eat too much and they know what to stop. And then finally, what about you? You, as mom, may be faced with a mountain of sweets and you find it really, really hard to exercise some willpower. Look, let's be honest, the struggle isn't just about our kids and their sweets, isn't there? There's also a voice inside there going, just have a little one. Just have a little mini bar while you tidy up or while you put everything away. Look, first give yourself grace. Of course, sugar lights up reward centers in your brain. It gives us that dopamine hit, and it's especially hard to maintain a willpower when you're tired or stressed. And that's why I don't really like relying on willpower or motivation for any habit change. It doesn't work. So what I like to talk about is to notice the difference between if you're craving comfort and craving sugar. Because sometimes we just want to sit down with a favorite chocolate bar and we can enjoy it, and that's totally fine. Okay. As a general rule, eating a regular balanced meals that keeps your blood sugar stable, the sort of meals that I put in my weekly table meal plan every single week, the foods that have got complex carbohydrates in there, lots of protein in there, and lots of fiber to make sure that your blood sugar stays stable. That's the best way to reduce your cravings come evening time. And if you do have sweets, if you want to have sweets, have them. Enjoy them. Be intentional with it. Don't just sort of sneak away and eat it. Just be like, I'm going to have a chocolate bar, and sit down at the table and enjoy it. Don't just pick at it distractedly and not really think about what you're doing. Take it mindfully. You can do my mindful eating practice if you want to, and just enjoy it. You don't have to tell yourself off or tell yourself that you're not good at willpower or motivation. That is just not what this is about. It's just about enjoying it. It's only once a year. And after this is done, there are no sweets in the house because that is your norm. And if you do overdo it, don't panic. It's one night. Your next balanced meal is your reset button. Tomorrow is another day. You can start with a really good breakfast with lots of protein, lots of fiber in there. And that is your best way to hit that reset button again. So just as a kind of summary, really, should you limit sweets for children? It really depends on the child and the stage that you're at. If they're under 2, yeah, you want to keep things simple and just give them a few bits and then put the rest away. But once they're older, your role shifts from gatekeeper to guide and coach. You're helping them build trust with their bodies, and that takes time, calmness, and patience. And yes, maybe a little bit more sugar than you're happy with, but that's okay because we're looking at the long term. We're looking at the goal of giving them a healthy relationship with food. And remember, what works for me might not work exactly like this for you. And that's okay. Every child is different. You will figure out your own rhythm as they grow. And if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my goodness, that's all very well for this one time of year, but to be honest, every single mealtime feels like a battle, you're not alone. If you struggle with a fussy eater or a child who just won't eat anything that you think is healthy for them, then my workshop, How to Feed Your Fussy Toddler, might really, really help. It's only £25 and you can watch it in your own time. And I've broken it up into easy sort of chunks so that you can just watch a little bit at a time. And I share gentle, practical strategies to bring more calm to your meal times and help you work towards that long-term goal of raising a child with a healthy, happy relationship with food. So if that's something that you know that you need, you'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and have a fun, guilt-free Halloween. Bye for now.